When you're thinking about Eastern religions, quickly you might think of Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism maybe. But there's also Taoism. Taoism, also pronounced Taoism, is a religion or a philosophy that comes to us from what is now China. The idea of Taoism can be broken down into the Tao or the Tao, and that's just saying the way. What exactly is the way? How do you find the way? Or how do you know if you're on the way? The way to what exactly? Well, there's a lot of mystery in Taoism. You're not going to get some analytic, analyzable, definable religion that fits neatly into some category. A lot of Taoism is left a mystery, and it's left a mystery for a reason. One of the opening lines in the sacred text of Taoism tells us that if you could name it, you have perverted it. Essentially, the Tao, the real Tao for Taoism, is something that cannot be named. So once you think you've got it, you probably don't. In fact, you shouldn't search for it because the person who searched for it will not find it. Now, one idea we know about and is concrete is Wu Wei. Wu Wei is the idea that you should not fight nature. You should not fight yourself and strive to be something that you're not. You should not fight nature and strive to customize your environment to make it go this way that you want it to go. Just embrace yourself and your nature, embrace the environment, and just go with it. Go with the flow. Stop swimming against the current of the river. Stop trying to change what is natural. So the idea of Wu Wei is the idea of non-action. To do something without fighting everything around you or fighting yourself. That's what it means to have a cessation of striving. Stop trying to make something else. Other ideas that come from Taoism is the idea of spiritual immortality. And this means that when you die, your spirit will go on. But we're not talking about God. In fact, if you wanted to be a Taoist, you don't ever actually have to have an idea about whether God exists. Whether God exists or not to a Taoist is almost irrelevant. And the reason for that is because you have a nature, and what your job is to find balance with your nature. And find balance within yourself in addition to yourself in conjunction with the world around you. As the world around you changes, you should change. You should do whatever it takes to remain in balance or in harmony with all the things that exist. Everything in the universe is connected, and you should accept everything in the universe. Just go with it. I'll explain further one other idea that comes from Taoism, but I'll read first from the Tao Te Ching, chapter 22. And the quote says, "The partial becomes complete, the crooked straight, the empty full, the worn out new. He whose desires are few gets them. He whose desires are many goes astray." Now, this is from chapter 22 of the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is a sacred text in Taoism, but it's not quite clear who exactly wrote it, or if one person wrote it. Maybe several people wrote it during different times, and it's a collection. It's not clear. It's also sometimes considered written by Lao-Tzu, but it's not quite clear if that person ever existed. But maybe it was written in the 5th or 6th century. We're really not sure. When I read you chapter 22, you might see that there's differences coming together, or one thing turning into its opposite. The partial becomes complete. The worn out becomes new. A lot of that kind of dialogue and sentiment is centered in Taoism. In Taoism, there's this idea that all of reality is made up of opposites. The idea is called dualism, that reality is not just one thing, it's more than one thing. In fact, it's made up of opposites. So let's look at the symbol of Taoism, and we can begin to better understand it. Here's the symbol of Taoism. It's often referred to as the Yin Yang symbol. Yin is usually night or feminine or calm. Yang is usually day or masculine or the aggressive one. These two opposites come together and formulate a bond. So here's your symbol, and you have some of the light color in the dark color, and you have some of the dark color in the light color, and they're motioning and going into one another. Just like light turns into day, just like day turns into night and night turns into day, just like light and dark both need each other to exist. For example, without light, there would be no such thing as a shadow or darkness. And to have darkness, there needs to be light. The idea of Taoism is that all of reality is made up of opposites, and that opposites are natural. Things that are in competition with one another, or that turn into one another, that are fighting to stay in balance, that's all natural. Change is natural. Differences or oppositions are natural. And so your job as a human being is to find balance within all of that change, within all of the contradictories. That's the idea of the yin yang. Now, you might think that's beautiful, and so why isn't this a popular religion coming out of China? Well, the reason is because in recent history, there's been a lot of pushback on the Taos. Now, the idea of Taoism is one of peace. You're supposed to accept your inner nature and accept your place in all of nature. You're not supposed to be fighting other people or judging other people or competing with other people or countries, etc. You just let people live, and that's okay. Well, that's not how they've been treated. In the 20s, all the way into the late 70s, there has been a lot of war waged on Taoists. They were even banned in the 50s, and they were also killed by the dozens in the mid to late 60s. So just because there's not a lot of Taoist people now does not mean that the religion doesn't have something extremely valuable to offer us.